The linoleum was cold beneath Ava's bare feet as she scrambled under the table. Above her, Mama's favorite yellow ribbon, the one from the church picnic, floated down like a dying butterfly. The crash had come first, then the shouting. Now just heavy breathing and the smell of Daddy's aftershave gone sour with anger. Ava pressed her teddy bear to her chest so hard the stitching popped. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Not her dog, not yet. The refrigerator hummed like nothing was wrong. A drop of something dark and thick plimped onto the tile near her knee. Mama wasn't moving anymore. Officer Kane's boots crunched on broken glass as Rex strained against his leash. The 90-pound German shepherd didn't bark, just froze, nostrils flaring at the copper stench beneath the pine sol. Kane had seen this before in Kandahar. "Find," he murmured. Rex's claws clicked across bloody tile to the overturned table. His whine wasn't for the woman slumped by the fridge. It was for the tiny handprint on the table leg, the crayon drawing of stick figures with too much red, the stuffed bear missing an eye under the chair. Rex nudged the bear toward Kane with his nose, then sat at attention between the officer and the hallway closet. His scarred ears twitched at the shallow breathing inside.
Dispatch had said domestic disturbance. They hadn't mentioned the child. Kane found Ava curled behind winter coats, still clutching her bear. Rex whined that particular whine from his bomb-sniffing days, the one that meant hurry, but gentle. The girl's eyes were dry, too dry. Her pink nightgown was spattered with things no 3-year-old should know. When Kane reached for her, Rex blocked him with his body. The dog's ears went flat as the EMTs loaded Mama onto the gurney. Only when Ava reached one trembling hand toward Rex's scarred muzzle did he move. She buried her face in his neck fur as he carried her scent, fear and baby shampoo and something broken, straight to his canine heart. The department's psych report said Rex was too reactive for civilian work. 3 tours detecting IEDs will do that. But when the shelter workers brought Ava in, the 7-year-old shepherd did something unprecedented. He lay down at her feet and rolled over, exposing his vulnerable belly, the same belly still peppered with shrapnel scars. Kane held his breath. Ava knelt and touched one pink finger to Rex's worst scar. The dog didn't flinch. The child therapist whispered, "That's his purple heart." For the first time since the attack, Ava made a sound, not a word, just a sigh that ruffled Rex's fur. The dog answered with a quiet boof from his chest. Paperwork be damned. They were partners now.
The child psychologist gave Ava crayons. She drew a lopsided house with no door, a stick figure under a table, a bigger figure holding something that made Rex growl low in his throat. The therapist asked, "Is that your daddy?" Ava didn't answer. She just colored over everything in red until the paper tore. Rex rested his heavy head on her knee. When she started a new drawing, his tail thumped once. This one showed a big dog with pointy ears standing between the stick figures. Ava pressed her palm to Rex's muzzle, leaving a faint crayon smudge on his whiskers. Kane suddenly needed to clear his throat. That's when Rex did something extraordinary. He licked the red crayon right out of Ava's hand. The message was clear. No more red. Not today. Day 47 at the foster home. Rex lay beside Ava's bed like a living security blanket. The nightmares still came most nights. The crash, the yelling, the way Mama's bracelet sounded when it hit the tile. Tonight was worse. Ava woke screaming, but no sound came out. Just silent tears soaking Rex's fur. The dog whined and nudged her hands until she gripped his collar. Then it happened. One whispered word. Stay. Rex immediately flopped down with his full weight against her legs. Downstairs, the foster mom dropped her coffee cup. Upstairs, Ava traced the letters on Rex's badge with one finger. Canine, officer, friend. The dog sighed contentedly as her breathing slowed. Some bonds don't need words, but sometimes one is enough.
The police lineup was supposed to be simple, 6 men behind glass. But when Ava saw the fourth one, the one with Daddy's square jaw and 2 clean hands, she froze. Rex felt her tiny fingers tighten in his fur. The detective asked, "Do you recognize anyone, sweetheart?" Before Ava could react, Rex did something unprecedented. He sat directly in front of her, blocking her view of the glass, and turned his head for an ear scratch. His message was clear: "You don't have to look. I'll remember for you." Later, Kane would swear the dog growled at only one suspect, the one whose expensive cologne couldn't mask the sour stench of guilt, the one whose mugshot Rex would later sniff with particular interest at trial. 2:17 a.m. The safehouse monitor blinked lazily as Ava's nightmare began. Rex was awake before the first whimper left her lips. By the time her foster mother reached the doorway, the German Shepherd had already done his work. Lamp nudged on, blankets rearranged into a nest, his 85-pound frame curled around the shaking child. "It's just a dream," the woman started to say, but Rex gave her a look that said, "No, ma'am, this is memory." Ava buried her face in his neck as he licked away salt tears. Outside, a car backfired. Rex's head snapped up, but he didn't bark, just rumbled a protective growl deep in his chest until Ava's breathing evened out. Some guards never sleep.
Courtroom day. Ava arrived clutching 2 things, her tattered bear and Mama's yellow ribbon. Without a word, she tied the ribbon around Rex's collar. The bailiff chuckled, "Making him pretty for the judge?" Kane's response was ice. "That ribbon's evidence." Rex stood taller, the yellow silk bright against his dark fur. When Ava's knees buckled at the sight of the defendant, Rex leaned hard against her legs, steady, present. The judge peered down at this unusual team, the silent child, the scarred war dog, the ribbon that had witnessed everything. For the first time in his 30-year career, Judge Holt allowed a canine to sit at the witness stand. Some testimony doesn't need words. The pre-trial vet checkup didn't go as planned. His heart rate's elevated, the vet noted. Not anxiety, anticipation. Kane nodded. Rex had been different since smelling that courtroom sketch, the one Ava drew of the bad man with cedar cologne. Now the dog paced their motel room, pausing only to sniff under the door. Kane knew the signs. Rex was working. Just like in Kandahar, when he'd smell explosives before the scanners did. That night, as Ava slept, Rex stood guard at the foot of her bed. Every car door slam made his ears twitch. Every footstep in the hallway earned a low growl. When Kane tried to relieve him at dawn, Rex gave him a look that said, "You sleep, I remember." Some dogs never really retire.
The courtroom air conditioning couldn't mask it, that same cedar and sweat stench Rex remembered from the crime scene. When Colton Briggs took the stand, the German Shepherd's ears snapped forward. Ava's fingers tightened in his fur as the man smirked, adjusting his cufflinks. Rex's low growl wasn't loud, but the jury heard it. Judge Holt's gavel froze mid-air as the dog stood, nostrils flaring at the defendant's polished shoes. The same shoes that had kicked the kitchen table, the same cologne that had mixed with Mama's blood. Kane didn't need to give the command. Rex's entire body became a silent accusation, his scarred muzzle pointing unerringly at the man who thought he'd gotten away with it. The bailiff's hand drifted toward his holster. They didn't let Ava take the stand. Didn't need to. When the prosecutor held up Mama's yellow ribbon, Rex's whine echoed through the silent courtroom. When the defense attorney suggested Ava had imagined everything, the German Shepherd deliberately turned his back, something he'd never done in 6 years of service. But when they played the 911 call, When Ava's silent screams finally filled the room, Rex did something extraordinary. He rested his head in the child's lap and closed his eyes. The jury foreman wiped his glasses. 2 women in the gallery reached for tissues. Even the court reporter paused. Judge Holt finally spoke. "I believe we've heard enough. Some truths don't need translation."
The prosecutor approached with Ava's last drawing. Rex tensed as the paper turned to face the jury. Not stick figures this time, a perfect courtroom sketch, the defense table, the judge's bench, even the court reporter. And beside the smirking man in the suit, a shadow figure with claws and too many teeth. The jury didn't need the forensic expert to explain how trauma survivors often draw monsters. They saw how Rex's hackles rose when the drawing came near, saw how Ava clutched at his service vest when the defense attorney objected. The judge studied the child, then the dog, then the shaking defendant. "Let the record show," Holt said quietly, "that Canine Rex has identified the shadow in this drawing." The gavel sounded like a door slamming shut. It happened between heartbeats. Colton Briggs lunged during recess, not at Ava, but at the evidence table. Rex moved faster, 3 seconds. 1 to knock Ava safely behind Kane, 2 to intercept the man's grab for Mama's bloody blouse, 3 to pin him with 90 pounds of muscle and fury. The courtroom erupted. Bailiffs shouted. The judge's coffee cup shattered. But Ava? She saw only Rex's eyes, fierce and focused, as he held the man down without biting, without growling, just silent, perfect restraint. Later, the security footage would show what human eyes missed, how Rex had been watching Briggs since entering the room, how his muscles had coiled minutes before the attack. Some officers called it training. Kane knew better. This was vengeance, delayed, but not denied.
The scuffle reopened Rex's oldest scar, that jagged line from Kandahar. As blood welled along his shoulder, Ava did something extraordinary. She pressed her tiny hand against the wound, just as Rex had once pressed his muzzle to her nightmares. The prosecutor rushed forward with tissues, but Judge Holt raised a hand. Everyone watched as the German Shepherd licked the girl's fingers once, then turned to face Colton Briggs with what could only be called contempt. The parallel wasn't lost on the jury. The dog's war wound and the child's emotional scars, both bleeding for the same reason. When the foreman passed the verdict to the bailiff, his note simply read, "Guilty, on all counts." Some justice doesn't need elaboration. The sentencing hearing brought one final surprise. As marshals led Briggs away, he spat at Ava. Rex's teeth flashed, a warning snap that stopped a millimeter from the man's wrist. The courtroom gasped. The marshals reached for weapons. But Ava? She laughed, a real, bubbling child's laugh that echoed off the oak panels. Because she'd seen what others missed, Rex hadn't bitten, hadn't even drawn blood, just left Briggs shaking with 2 perfect canine imprints on his Rolex. The prosecutor would later call it a judicial adjustment. Kane called it poetic justice. But as Rex trotted back to Ava, his tail wagging slightly, the message was clear. I could have, but I didn't. For you. Some restraint speaks louder than violence.
The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when it happened. Flashbulbs popped, microphones jabbed forward. Someone asked Ava, "How do you feel now that he's going away?" The little girl looked at Rex, then at the yellow ribbon still tied to his collar, and then, clear as church bells, she spoke. "Safe." Just one word, but it broke Kane's professional composure. Tears tracked through his stubble as Rex nuzzled the child's cheek. The press corps fell silent. Even the cynical courthouse regulars wiped their eyes. Upstairs, Judge Holt watched from his chamber's window, murmuring to no one in particular, "Best damn testimony I've ever heard." Some healing doesn't need fanfare. Just a little girl, a faithful dog, and a single perfect word. The retirement ceremony should have been happy, but as the police chief pinned the medal to Rex's collar, Kane noticed the stain no one else could see, a faint rust-colored smudge on the brass canine insignia. Briggs's blood? No. Ava's tears that first night? Maybe.
Or perhaps just the accumulated weight of every victim Rex had ever comforted. The German Shepherd sat at attention throughout the speeches, but his eyes never left Ava, now swinging her legs on the front row bench. When the mayor bent to pet him, Rex did something unprecedented. He gently took the man's wrist in his mouth and guided it to Ava's shoulder instead. The message was clear: pet her. She's the hero here. Some medals belong to the survivors.
Post-trial checkup revealed 2 cracked teeth and a torn claw. The vet whistled. This dog fought recently. Kane nodded. For the right reasons. As the doctor worked, Rex kept staring at the door until it opened, revealing Ava in a sunflower yellow dress, foster mom behind her. Instantly, the old soldier became a puppy again, tail thumping weakly despite the pain. The vet murmured, "You know he'd go through it all again for her, right?" Kane didn't answer. Didn't need to. Everyone in the room saw how Rex's ears perked at Ava's voice, how he licked her hands instead of whimpering when the vet touched his injuries. Some love languages don't need translation. The vet's final diagnosis said it all. Prognosis. Excellent. Patient has found his purpose. Ava insisted on holding Rex's paw during suture removal. "I'll be brave if you are," she whispered, echoing Kane's words from that first terrible night. The German Shepherd didn't flinch when the vet clipped the last thread, just licked Ava's cheek as she counted his stitches aloud. 7, like my age. Later, as afternoon light slanted through the shelter windows, she made her final drawing of the trial. A big dog with a medal, a little girl with a yellow ribbon, and off to the side, a tiny stick figure behind bars. Rex sniffed it approvingly before nudging the crown box toward Kane. The message was clear. Your turn. The officer added one thing: a sun above them all, with rays like a child's idea of justice. No clouds, no shadows, just light. Some endings are really beginnings.
The judge's final order arrived engraved on Rex's new tag: Lifetime Guardian, Ava Claire Whitman. No legal jargon, no conditions, just 9 letters stamped into metal that would rest against the dog's chest forever. Kane fastened it beside Rex's police medal, the 2 tags clinking together like a toast to second chances. At the shelter, Ava pressed her ear to them, listening to the sound of safety. The social worker sighed, "I've never seen an adoption like this." Rex answered by flopping onto his back, paws in the air, the same surrender pose he'd offered Ava that first day. Some laws don't need pen and paper, just a collar and a promise. Judge Holt did something unprecedented after the trial. He knelt in his robes on the courthouse steps to hang a second medal on Rex's collar, this one shaped like a tiny scales of justice. The German Shepherd stood solemnly until Ava whispered, "Okay." Then came the tail wag that made the evening news. Reporters shouted questions, but Holt just pointed to the ribbon still tied beneath Rex's tags. Faded now, but unmistakable. "Real justice," he told the cameras, "sometimes has 4 legs and a wet nose." As flashbulbs popped, Rex turned his back on the crowd and nudged Ava toward Kane's waiting car. Some legends don't need speeches, just a child's hand in your fur and the road home ahead.
Ava's new bedroom smelled like fresh paint and the lavender sachets her foster mom swore by. Rex circled twice before settling his weight against her twin bed. No growling at shadows tonight, no pacing, just quiet watchfulness as the moon crossed the window. When dawn came, the foster mom peeked in and froze. Ava slept curled against Rex's side, one hand fisted in his fur, her face finally relaxed. The dog opened one eye but didn't move. Message received. Downstairs, Kane sat at the kitchen table with cold coffee, staring at the adoption papers. The social worker's pen hovered. "You sure about this?" Outside, a bird sang. Some questions answer themselves when sunlight hits the right patch of floor. The courthouse clerk balked at the purple crayon signature until Judge Holt intervened. "Let the record show," he boomed. "This may be the most sincere signature we've ever witnessed." Ava pressed her palm to the page beside Rex's inked paw print, grinning when the dog licked her ear.
Camera shutters clicked. Kane's hands shook as he countersigned, and just like that, a war dog who'd failed retirement became a little girl's forever guardian. Outside reporters clamored for comments, but Ava had just one thing to say. She held up the leash, not the police issue one, but a bright yellow nylon lead from the pet store. Walk? Rex's tail thumped the steps. Some journeys begin where the paperwork ends.
Rex's last official act was walking Ava to her first day of school. He wore his medals over a brand new blue bandana, his gait stiff but proud. Kindergartners gasped as he marched past, a living legend with graying muzzle. At classroom 3, Ava knelt to hug him. "Be good," she whispered, the same words Kane always used. Rex responded by nudging her lunchbox toward the teacher with his nose. The principal started to object until she saw the scars, the tags, the way the little girl's shoulders straightened when Rex licked her cheek. The bell rang. Rex watched until Ava's yellow dress disappeared into the crowd, then turned toward Kane with a sigh that said, "They grow up too fast." Some goodbyes are really just see you laters. The bronze plaque gleamed in the autumn sun, in honor of K9 Rex, who stood when others sat, who listened when others shouted. Ava traced the letters every Sunday after church, Rex's old collar draped around her wrist like a bracelet. Tourists took pictures. Lawyers paused mid-stride to read the inscription. One snowy December morning, the groundskeeper found something peculiar. A single yellow ribbon tied around the bench's armrest, fluttering in the wind. No note, no explanation, just a child's silent tribute to the friend who'd taught her that even broken things can heal. Some memorials don't need flowers, just memory and a little bit of string.
Ava was 15 when the museum called. They wanted Rex's vest for a victim's rights exhibit. She agreed on one condition: the yellow ribbon stayed with her. The curator watched in awe as the teenager arranged the artifacts: the torn service vest, the dented tags, a photo of a little girl and her giant protector. Then, from her pocket, Ava produced a crayon drawing encased in resin, stick figures under a table, guarded by a big dog with pointy ears. "This belongs too," she said. The curator started to protest until she read the title scrawled in childish letters, "How to be brave." Some history isn't about objects, it's about the hands that held them first. Old soldiers still raise their glasses to Rex at the Veterans of Foreign Wars post. They tell the story differently each time, how the war dog who couldn't forget became the guardian who wouldn't quit. Kane, now gray at the temples, lets them talk. Only when someone asks, "Whatever happened to that little girl?" does he slide his phone across the bar. The screen shows Ava in a police academy sweatshirt, kneeling beside a new German Shepherd puppy. The caption reads, "Meet Rex Jr., training to be a therapy dog." The vets pass the phone like a sacrament. Someone mutters, "Like grandfather, like grandson." Kane doesn't correct them. Some legacies skip generations on purpose. Outside, a fall breeze carries the faintest jingle of dog tags.
Ava volunteers at the shelter now, teaching traumatized kids how to trust again. She always brings 3 things: crayons, a yellow ribbon, and Rex's old collar. The children listen wide-eyed as she tells them about the dog who spoke without words, how he taught her that fear isn't forever, that monsters can be beaten. After each session, Ava walks the shelter's longest resident, a scarred pit bull named Sergeant, past the courthouse bench. Sometimes, when the wind is just right, she swears she hears the clink of tags. The staff don't question when she pauses to whisper, "I remember." Some conversations never really end. They just change venues. On the anniversary of Rex's passing, Ava takes Rex Jr. to the hill behind the courthouse. The young German shepherd wears his namesake's medals over a yellow bandana. As evening falls, Ava produces a police whistle from her pocket, Kane's last gift before retirement. The sound echoes across the valley. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then, from the woods below, an answering howl rises. Then another, and another. Shelter dogs, patrol canines, family pets. A chorus of remembrance that makes the hair on Rex Jr.'s neck stand up. Ava smiles through tears as the last note fades. Some bonds defy even the stars. Above them, the first fireflies of summer blink on and off like distant badges still on duty, like guardians who never really leave.